above all honest?
Yeah, that he is.
When a man like Clint Eastwood speaks at 95, people listen, especially when the subject is his final farewell. After a lifetime of unforgettable films and complex relationships, the legendary filmmaker is reportedly making one thing clear: not everyone will be welcome at his funeral. The revelation has sparked intense curiosity across Hollywood and among fans who thought they knew him well. Because behind the calm, stoic image lies a man with strong convictions and even stronger memories. And as details slowly emerge, it's becoming clear that Eastwood's last request may reveal more about his life than any film ever could. The truth behind Eastwood's childhood. Clint Eastwood entered the world in San Francisco in 1930, growing up during the lingering shadow of the Great Depression. Over the years, he often painted a picture of those early days as tough and gritty, shaped by financial struggle and uncertainty. However, according to his longtime partner Sondra Locke, that version of events may have leaned more toward dramatic storytelling than strict reality. From her perspective, Eastwood's childhood looked far more comfortable, unfolding in one of the wealthier parts of town, complete with a private swimming pool and weekends spent at the local country club. Of course, Locke and Eastwood eventually went through a famously bitter breakup, which gives context to her criticism. Still, whether he experienced genuine hardship or simply grew up in relative comfort, Eastwood faced his own challenges as a young man. Academics were never his strong suit. School felt more like an obligation than an opportunity, and despite attempts to catch him up through summer classes, teachers ultimately decided to hold him back during junior high. Faculty members did their best to steer him toward areas where he showed promise, encouraging him to explore sports and music. Yet Eastwood showed little interest in either. He developed a reputation for getting into trouble and bounced between schools, never finding much motivation in classroom life. At the time, his attention revolved mainly around fast cars and chasing romantic encounters. Unlike other young rebels of the era, reckless driving never led him into serious trouble, but his relationships with women would become a recurring source of drama throughout his life. Despite becoming one of Hollywood's most recognizable and enduring stars, much of Eastwood's personal life has remained tightly guarded. His privacy has left lingering questions, including uncertainty over whether he ever officially graduated high school. Friends from his younger days often recalled him as someone far more interested in enjoying life than finishing formal education. That carefree attitude occasionally led him into situations that were far from harmless. Long before he became a cultural icon, Eastwood made his first visit to Carmel-by-the-Sea, a picturesque California town that would later hold deep significance in his life. Years later, he would even serve as the town's mayor. But during that first visit, he was simply a young man drawn by curiosity and opportunity. He reportedly felt an immediate connection to the place, sensing it might one day become home. Still, that early trip carried a far darker undertone than nostalgic memories might suggest. While spending time in Carmel, Eastwood became involved in a brief romantic encounter with a schoolteacher who was several years older than he was. What he expected to be a casual experience quickly escalated into something far more intense. The woman developed a deep emotional attachment and reportedly threatened to harm herself if he left town. Eastwood, still just a teenager and unprepared to handle such emotional weight, chose to leave anyway, hoping the threats were not serious. The incident left behind a trail of emotional fallout and foreshadowed the complicated romantic history that would follow him for decades. At the time, Eastwood showed little interest in military service. His focus remained firmly on his social life. However, fate intervened through the military draft, forcing him into the United States Army. Rumors later circulated suggesting that his involvement with the daughter of a high-ranking officer at Fort Ord may have influenced his assignment there. Whether coincidence or quiet retaliation, Eastwood soon found himself stationed at the California base, a posting that would nearly end in tragedy. During his time in the Army, Eastwood traveled to Seattle on official business and, true to form, took the opportunity to visit a romantic partner along the West Coast. After the visit, he boarded a Douglas AD-1Q aircraft to return to base, unaware that the flight would become a life-or-death ordeal. What began as a routine trip quickly unraveled into mechanical failure. The aircraft experienced multiple malfunctions, including issues with the rear hatch, oxygen system, navigation equipment, and intercom communications. The situation worsened when the plane ran out of fuel while approaching the California coast. With no engines and no safe place to land, the pilot was forced to ditch the aircraft into the Pacific Ocean several miles off the coast near San Francisco. The sudden shift from a casual trip to a desperate survival situation left everyone on board scrambling. As the plane slammed into the ocean, it bounced violently across the waves before beginning to sink. Realizing there was no alternative, Eastwood and the crew abandoned the aircraft and plunged into the freezing water, forced to swim toward shore. The conditions were brutal. A powerful storm churned the sea, and the frigid water drained their strength with every stroke. Eastwood, however, held a slight advantage due to his experience as a swimming instructor during his military service. Through the darkness and chaos, he focused on the distant outline of Marin County's coastline, which seemed impossibly far away. As daylight faded into night, the group pressed forward, navigating through rough waters with little visibility. Unbeknownst to them, they were swimming through an area known for shark breeding. Eastwood later admitted that ignorance may have saved his life, as knowing the danger could have triggered paralyzing panic. During the exhausting swim, the group became separated, raising fears that some had drowned. Remarkably, every crew member eventually reached shore and reunited, each surviving the ordeal without lasting physical injury. After completing his service at Fort Ord without further near-death experiences, Eastwood relocated to Los Angeles, eager to begin a new chapter. Not long afterward, he met Margaret Neville Johnson through a blind date arranged by friends. Unlike his previous casual relationships, this connection moved quickly toward stability. Within a few months, the two married, signaling what appeared to be a shift toward a more settled lifestyle. However, Eastwood's pattern of romantic restlessness soon resurfaced. While Johnson remained focused on completing her education, Eastwood accepted temporary work in Seattle. Distance quickly strained their relationship. While living there, he became involved with another woman, joining a local theater group, partly as a way to spend more time with her. That involvement would unintentionally shape both his personal life and his future career in entertainment. During this period, Eastwood engaged in a brief relationship that resulted in the birth of a daughter named Lori in 1954. Unknown to him at the time, the child's mother chose not to inform him about the pregnancy and instead placed the baby for adoption. Lori grew up completely unaware of her biological father's identity, living an ordinary life without any connection to the Hollywood figure he would eventually become. Decades later, as an adult in her 30s, Lori began researching her biological background. Her search ultimately revealed Eastwood as her father, delivering a revelation that would permanently alter her understanding of her own identity. The discovery added another unexpected chapter to Eastwood's already complex and deeply private personal history. The accidental discovery that changed everything. Clint Eastwood's rise into Hollywood often felt like one of those stories that seemed almost too convenient to be true. While stationed at Fort Ord, His life took an unexpected turn when Universal Pictures arrived at the base to film a project. Amid the busy production, a cameraman noticed Eastwood casually moving around the area and immediately felt he had the kind of presence that belonged on screen. That moment led to an introduction to director Arthur Lubin, who quickly shared the cameraman's enthusiasm. For many aspiring actors, breaking into Hollywood meant years of relentless auditions and rejection. Eastwood's path unfolded very differently. He went from living an ordinary life to suddenly receiving an opportunity most struggling actors could only dream about. Lubin arranged an audition for him, but once Eastwood stepped in front of the camera, it became clear that natural screen presence did not automatically translate into acting skill. His performance was shaky and inexperienced, leaving Lubin to gently suggest that formal acting lessons might be necessary. Despite the awkward audition, Lubin secured Eastwood a contract with Universal Studios that paid $100 a week. The decision raised eyebrows, with some speculating that Lubin saw a unique star quality in Eastwood, while others believed his interest may have been more personal than professional. Eastwood's wife, Margaret Johnson, reportedly became uneasy about the director's strong attention toward her husband, especially since she had already grown accustomed to dealing with Eastwood's romantic distractions involving women. The possibility of complications beyond that reportedly pushed her patience to its limits. Eastwood's early years at Universal were anything but glamorous. His first major audition opportunity came with the film 6 Bridges to Cross, where his performance left little impression. Directors dismissed him as unprepared, and rejection quickly became a familiar experience. He continued auditioning for projects such as Brigadoon, The Constant Nymph, and The 7-Year Itch, only to encounter the same disappointing results. At that stage, he lacked the technical ability and confidence necessary to stand out in an intensely competitive industry. His earliest paid role under Universal's contract reflected just how far he still had to go. He appeared as a scarecrow in a holiday musical staged for studio employees' children, a far cry from the dramatic roles that would later define his career. However, Eastwood approached the opportunity with quiet determination. He recognized his weaknesses and committed himself to improvement, enrolling in acting classes and gradually building his confidence in front of the camera. As he developed his craft, Eastwood discovered that he possessed a natural intensity that translated particularly well into portraying anger and emotional conflict. During one acting exercise, his performance reportedly became so convincing that it overwhelmed a fellow student, demonstrating the raw emotional edge that would later become his trademark. Off-screen, Eastwood's physical presence and reserved toughness began aligning with the emerging demand in Hollywood for rugged, masculine leading men. Stories from this period also contributed to his growing reputation as someone whose on-screen persona closely matched his real-life demeanor. One widely shared account described an attempted robbery outside Trader Vic's restaurant in Los Angeles during the 1950s. While dining with his wife and friends, Eastwood and his group were confronted by armed criminals. As panic spread among the others, Eastwood reportedly remained calm and defiant, confronting the attackers with a fearlessness that caused them to retreat. Another altercation occurred during a night out on Highland Avenue, where Eastwood and a friend encountered a group of sailors looking for trouble. Mistaking his youthful appearance for weakness, they targeted him with insults that escalated into a physical fight. Although Eastwood absorbed some blows, the confrontation reportedly ended with several of the sailors requiring medical attention, further reinforcing his growing legend as a formidable figure even before achieving stardom. While Eastwood's public image as a tough, resilient man continued to strengthen, his personal life told a far more complicated story. His marriage to Margaret Johnson struggled under the weight of his repeated infidelities. Almost immediately after their wedding, Eastwood resumed pursuing relationships outside the marriage, a pattern that intensified as his career began to gain momentum. Among his early affairs was a relationship with actress Mamie Van Doren, which developed after he secured a small role in one of her films. Despite the instability in his personal life, Eastwood's professional breakthrough finally arrived when he was cast as Rowdy Yates in the television Western Rawhide. The role introduced him to a national audience and provided financial security that had previously eluded him. Though the character lacked the darker, more complex edge that would later define Eastwood's most iconic roles, the series made him a household name and offered steady employment. However, success did not bring satisfaction. Eastwood grew increasingly frustrated with the limitations of his character and the repetitive nature of television production. His dissatisfaction began to affect his behavior on set, where he developed a reputation for poor punctuality and minimal enthusiasm for filming. Crew members reportedly adjusted shooting schedules to accommodate his frequent lateness, highlighting a period when professional discipline was not among his strongest qualities. His personal life remained equally turbulent. Eastwood's affairs became increasingly open, with colleagues and crew members fully aware of his relationships with various women connected to the production. One of the most significant relationships during this time developed with stuntwoman Roxanne Tunis, whom he met while working on Rawhide. Their relationship evolved from a brief encounter into a prolonged affair that became widely known among those working on the series. In 1964, Tunis gave birth to Eastwood's daughter, Kimber. Unlike his earlier child, whose existence he had not known about at the time, this situation unfolded within an environment where his involvement was difficult to conceal. Although his wife never publicly addressed the matter, it was widely believed she was aware of the circumstances but chose not to confront them publicly. Tunis was only one of several relationships Eastwood maintained during this period. By his early 30s, he had fathered multiple children outside his marriage, and there were reports of additional relationships that nearly resulted in further pregnancies. One such relationship involved actress and competitive swimmer Anita Lahoest, whose biographer later suggested their affair ended with her decision to terminate a pregnancy. Eastwood's romantic history extended across an extensive list of high-profile women, including performers, writers, and public figures. These relationships reinforced his reputation as someone who remained deeply committed to his personal freedom, even while maintaining the public image of a married man. His pattern of relationships demonstrated that fame only expanded his opportunities rather than tempering his behavior. Professionally, Eastwood felt increasingly trapped by Rawhide. Although the show provided stability and recognition, he viewed it as limiting his growth as an actor. The series that had transformed his life began to feel like a barrier preventing him from pursuing more serious and challenging roles. This growing frustration pushed him toward career decisions that many actors of the time would have considered risky, setting the stage for the next major transformation in his career. Eastwood's wild ride through love. While Clint Eastwood was grinding through his time on Rawhide, he watched something frustrating happen right in front of him. His co-stars were landing exciting movie offers while he felt trapped playing Rowdy Yates over and over again. That was when word reached him about a strange, low-budget Western being filmed far away in rural Spain. It sounded risky, unconventional, and honestly, a little questionable. The project was being led by a relatively unknown Italian director named Sergio Leone. At first, Leone wanted Rawhide star Eric Fleming to take the lead role. Fleming, however, had zero interest in abandoning the comfort of Hollywood to film a Western overseas with a director nobody in America had even heard of. He brushed it off without much thought. Eastwood saw things differently. He was desperate to break free from being typecast and felt like his career was standing still. Taking a gamble didn't scare him. It felt necessary. He accepted the role without hesitation, a decision that would quietly reshape the direction of his entire life. For 11 weeks of work on what would become a fistful of dollars, Eastwood earned $15,000 and even received a Mercedes-Benz as part of the deal. At the time, many actors might have worried that appearing in a foreign-made Western could damage their reputation. Eastwood, however, embraced it. For the first time, he was able to step into the boots of a morally complex, gritty anti-hero, the type of character he had always wanted to play. He enjoyed the experience, though he likely had no idea that he was helping create a cinematic revolution. The three westerns Eastwood eventually made with Leone would later become known as the Spaghetti Western Trilogy. While they took some time to gain popularity in the United States, they ultimately became some of the most influential westerns ever filmed. By the end of the 1960s, Eastwood had successfully transitioned from television regular to rising movie star. During this same period, Eastwood joined the cast of the musical Western Paint Your Wagon, starring alongside Lee Marvin and Gene Seberg. The production, filmed deep in the Oregon wilderness, became memorable for reasons that had little to do with the movie itself. Both Eastwood and Seberg were married when filming began, yet they soon started an affair. Seberg's feelings grew intense and overwhelming. She became so emotionally invested that she informed her husband, French author and diplomat Romain Gary, that she intended to leave him for Eastwood. Gary reacted dramatically, reportedly challenging Eastwood to a duel, though the confrontation never materialized. Instead, Gary eventually walked away from the marriage. According to accounts later discussed by film historian Karina Longworth, Seberg contacted her publicist almost immediately, eager to announce her divorce and convinced she had found lasting love. Unfortunately for her, Eastwood's emotions were far less serious. While he was involved with Seberg, he was also quietly seeing another woman during the same production. Once filming wrapped and the cast returned to Los Angeles, Eastwood gradually cut ties with Seberg altogether. The emotional fallout hit her hard. Friends and associates later described her as deeply shaken by the experience, struggling to process how quickly the relationship had dissolved. Professionally, however, Eastwood's momentum only continued to build. By the late 1960s and early 1970s, roles like Dirty Harry permanently erased the image of him as a television cowboy. He had fully transformed into a film icon known for his tough, commanding screen presence. Meanwhile, his personal life remained complicated. Eastwood had been married to Maggie Johnson for years, and despite multiple separations and reconciliations, they attempted to stabilize their relationship during this period. They expanded their family, welcoming their son Kyle in 1968 and their daughter Allison in 1972. To outsiders, it appeared as though Eastwood might finally be settling into family life. Behind the scenes, that stability was fragile. In a 1971 interview, Eastwood described his marriage as somewhat open, a phrase that hinted at the unconventional arrangement he maintained. Johnson often tolerated his affairs, believing they were temporary distractions rather than serious threats to their marriage. That perception changed dramatically when Eastwood met actress Sondra Locke. Their connection developed gradually, but by 1975, they were living together. Eastwood assured Locke that his marriage to Johnson was effectively over, and she believed him. What may have begun as another affair quickly evolved into a deeply intense relationship. Locke later described their early years as passionate and emotionally consuming. Eastwood reportedly told her that he had never truly been in love before, claiming his inability to remain faithful in past relationships stemmed from never feeling that level of emotional connection. Whether entirely truthful or not, Locke accepted his words, fully investing herself in the relationship. Complications surfaced almost immediately. Locke moved into a home Eastwood had originally purchased with Johnson, who was still legally his wife. Johnson had relocated to the couple's estate in Pebble Beach, but her presence lingered in Locke's mind, making it difficult for her to feel comfortable. Even after Eastwood and Locke moved residences, the tension between the two women remained unavoidable. Johnson made her disapproval unmistakably clear. She placed strict boundaries around Locke's access to Eastwood's children and barred her from visiting the Pebble Beach property. The emotional strain weighed heavily on Locke, though she accepted it as part of her decision to remain with a married man. The relationship introduced additional complications surrounding family planning. Locke later claimed that Eastwood expressed strong opinions about birth control, objecting to certain methods due to personal discomfort, and shared concerns about potential health risks. She eventually sought guidance from a naturopathic clinic and began using the rhythm method, which involves tracking fertility cycles to avoid pregnancy. The method proved unreliable. Locke became pregnant twice during their relationship. Both pregnancies ended in abortions, experiences that left her emotionally conflicted. Eventually, she underwent a tubal ligation procedure, ending her ability to have children. She later admitted that she occasionally wondered about the children she might have had with Eastwood. In 1978, Johnson reached her breaking point. After 25 years of marriage, she filed for legal separation. For years, she had tolerated Eastwood's affairs while believing she still held primary importance in his life. With Locke, it became clear that the dynamic had shifted permanently. The divorce proceedings dragged on and reportedly resulted in a settlement costing Eastwood between $25 and $30 million. For Locke, the divorce seemed to remove the final obstacle between her and Eastwood. Yet their relationship carried one unusual complication that remained largely hidden from public view. Locke herself was married to a man named Gordon Anderson. Their marriage, however, functioned more as a lifelong friendship and social arrangement. Anderson was gay, and the two had married years earlier partly to avoid public scrutiny while maintaining their close bond. Eastwood was fully aware of the arrangement and even purchased a home in West Hollywood for Anderson. Publicly, Eastwood and Locke insisted they did not need marriage to validate their commitment. Privately, the unusual structure of their relationship hinted at underlying instability. Those close to Eastwood noticed how deeply attached he appeared to Locke during the late 1970s. Friends described him as intensely devoted. Yet his definition of devotion differed from conventional expectations. Despite his emotional connection with Locke, he continued maintaining relationships with other women, including Roxanne Tunis, the mother of one of his children. The relationship between Eastwood and Locke appeared strong on the surface, fueled by passion, collaboration, and shared success. But considering Eastwood's long history of complicated romantic entanglements, the foundation beneath their partnership remained fragile, quietly foreshadowing the collapse that would eventually follow. You see, by the late 1980s, Locke had endured years of emotional strain within her relationship with Clint Eastwood. In 1989, she finally reached her breaking point and ended the relationship. Since the two had never married, it might have seemed like their separation would be straightforward. Instead, it quickly spiraled into a bitter and very public conflict that revealed just how complicated their partnership had become. At the time of the breakup, Locke was far from standing still professionally. She had built a respectable career not only as an actress, but also as one of the few female directors working in Hollywood during that era. She was actively directing her second film, Impulse, when her personal life collided with her career in a shocking way. After a long day of filming, Locke returned home only to discover her keys no longer worked. Eastwood had changed the locks and placed all of her belongings into storage, effectively cutting her off from the home they had shared for years. The move left Locke furious and humiliated. She had initially hoped their separation could remain professional and private, but Eastwood's actions signaled that civility was not part of his plan. Determined to protect herself, Locke filed a palimony lawsuit against him, seeking financial compensation for the years she had spent as his partner. The court battle quickly turned personal. During legal proceedings, Eastwood publicly minimized their relationship, describing Locke as little more than a part-time roommate. The comment struck deeply, but an even more devastating revelation was still ahead. While Locke was preparing her legal case, she received a phone call from an investigative journalist that would completely shatter her understanding of their relationship. The journalist revealed that Eastwood had been maintaining a secret family. For several years, while Locke believed they were building a life together, Eastwood had been involved with another woman and fathered 2 children. The discovery left Locke emotionally stunned, forcing her to confront the reality that her relationship had existed alongside a hidden parallel life. As the legal dispute stretched on for more than a year, Locke faced another devastating blow when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. The combination of intense medical treatments and emotional exhaustion drained her ability to continue the legal fight. Eventually, she agreed to a settlement that included a lump sum payment, monthly financial support, and a professional directing agreement with Warner Brothers. Though the settlement offered stability, the experience left lasting emotional scars. Meanwhile, Eastwood had already begun moving forward with another relationship. That next chapter involved actress Frances Fisher. The timing followed a familiar pattern in Eastwood's personal history. He met Fisher in 1988 on the set of Pink Cadillac, a film that failed to make much impact critically or commercially. Their relationship began as a casual and non-exclusive romance, while Eastwood was still involved with Locke. By 1990, as his legal battles with Locke were nearing resolution, Eastwood and Fisher went public with their relationship. Fisher later admitted that she believed she had found a lasting partnership. Like several women before her, she would eventually realize that Eastwood's romantic relationships often followed a predictable cycle. The couple welcomed a daughter, Francesca, but even her birth became surrounded by unusual circumstances. Fisher unexpectedly went into labor 5 weeks early while staying at Eastwood's ranch in Northern California. She had to be transported by helicopter to a hospital in Redding. During the delivery, Fisher later recalled feeling overwhelmed and frightened as she endured intense labor pains. Eastwood, however, reportedly remained calm and distant, standing toward the back of the room discussing golf with the attending physician. At one point, a nurse approached him requesting an autograph during the delivery. Although Eastwood initially appeared reluctant, he ultimately signed it. The moment left Fisher deeply unsettled. Shortly after leaving the hospital, Fisher decided she had reached her own limit. She ended the relationship, moved out, and began raising their newborn daughter independently. Their relationship had lasted roughly 5 years, though warning signs had appeared throughout. Just before Francesca's birth, a woman in her late 30s contacted Eastwood, claiming he was her biological father, adding yet another hidden child to his already complex family history. Around the same time, Fisher also discovered Eastwood had fathered 2 additional children with Jacqueline Reeves. The mounting revelations reinforced her decision to walk away. By 1995, the relationship had officially ended. Eastwood wasted little time moving forward. Even before Fisher had fully separated from him, he began a relationship with Dina Ruiz, a television news anchor more than 3 decades younger than him. he appeared publicly with Ruiz before formally announcing the end of his relationship with Fisher, creating another wave of controversy. Eastwood and Ruiz married in 1996 and, for a time, appeared to maintain one of his longest and most stable relationships. Their marriage lasted nearly 2 decades, but cracks eventually surfaced. In 2012, Ruiz participated in a reality television series titled Mrs. Eastwood and Company, which focused on her daily life and social circle. The project seemed like an unusual fit for Eastwood, who maintained a private and traditional public image. During promotional appearances, Ruiz joked about hoping the marriage would survive the experience. Although the couple remained together through the show's airing, they announced their separation in August 2013, shortly after the series concluded. The situation took an even stranger turn almost immediately afterward. Within days of the separation announcement, Eastwood was seen with a woman named Erica Tomlinson Fisher. Erica had recently divorced her husband, Scott Fisher, and had previously contacted Eastwood's office because she suspected Scott and Dina Ruiz were involved in an affair. While Ruiz and Scott Fisher were not romantically connected at the time, the situation evolved in an unexpected way. Eastwood began dating Erica, while Ruiz eventually did begin a relationship with Scott Fisher. The unusual entanglement resulted in Ruiz and Scott Fisher marrying in 2016, effectively creating a situation where Eastwood and his former wife became romantically linked to each other's former partners. Eastwood's relationship with Erica eventually ended, continuing his long pattern of shifting relationships. By 2015, Eastwood entered another long-term relationship with Christina Sandera. The two remained together for nearly a decade, maintaining a relatively private partnership until Sandera's death in 2024. At 95, Clint Eastwood reveals who he doesn't want at his funeral. After a lifetime in the relentless glare of Hollywood, Clint Eastwood is revealing something few expected: who won't be invited to his funeral. At 94, the legendary actor and director isn't just reflecting on a career that has spanned decades. He's confronting the betrayals, broken friendships, and lingering regrets that have shaped his final wishes. According to those close to him, his exclusion list contains some truly surprising names, and the reasons behind it are bound to leave fans stunned. This isn't just a personal choice, it's Eastwood's final statement to the world. Known as an enduring Hollywood icon, he's also a man who knows exactly where he stands. Insiders say he has carefully curated a blacklist of A-list stars he refuses to forgive, whether for past actions or clashing personal beliefs. It's a rare, unfiltered glimpse at the grudges simmering beneath the glamorous surface of Tinseltown, showing that even in Hollywood, values and ideology can leave marks that never fade. Eastwood is one of the last titans of Hollywood's golden era. He has outlasted almost all his contemporaries and, even in his 90s, continues to push boundaries behind the camera. Yet behind the steely gaze that became his trademark, he harbors deep disappointments. He believes a new generation of stars has crossed lines that cannot be uncrossed. These aren't trivial squabbles. They're fundamental clashes over patriotism, morality, and the very meaning of celebrity. One of the most unexpected names on Eastwood's list is Tom Hanks. Their collaboration on Sully exposed irreconcilable differences. Hanks's meticulous, moralistic approach to acting collided with Eastwood's preference for raw authenticity and rapid execution. Reports suggest that Eastwood saw Hanks's style as moral grandstanding, believing actors should focus on their craft rather than infusing every role with political commentary. Spike Lee has also been caught in Eastwood's crosshairs, largely over historical representation. Tensions flared when Lee criticized the lack of black soldiers in films like Flags of Our Fathers. Eastwood's blunt dismissal highlighted a stark divide between their approaches to storytelling, one rooted in Lee's advocacy, the other in Eastwood's vision of raw, unvarnished authenticity. Documentary filmmaker Michael Moore is another figure Eastwood finds difficult to tolerate. After Moore criticized American Sniper, Eastwood's sharp, measured rebuttal exposed a deep ideological divide over patriotism and military representation. Moore's brand of performative outrage embodies the type of modern discourse Eastwood rejects. The list continues with Sean Penn, Alec Baldwin, and Jane Fonda, each representing what Eastwood views as problematic in contemporary Hollywood. Fonda's anti-war activism during Vietnam remains unforgivable in his eyes. Baldwin's volatile public persona clashes with Eastwood's traditional sensibilities, and Penn's outspoken political activism starkly contrasts with Eastwood's old-school values. As Hollywood becomes increasingly divided, Eastwood's Blacklist serves as a stark reminder of the ideological gulf between the legends of the past and today's stars. It challenges perceptions of celebrity, questioning how personal beliefs shape public life and artistic expression. In a world where activism often intersects with art, Eastwood remains steadfast, refusing to compromise the values that have guided his career. When the time comes for his final curtain call, Eastwood's funeral will be defined as much by who is absent as who is present. It will stand as a quiet, powerful reflection of the complex, sometimes messy relationships that have always made Hollywood what it is.